The Pittsburgh Steelers entered their Week 12 matchup against the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field carrying not only the weight of a difficult road environment but also the burden of uncertainty at the most critical position in football. What should have been a straightforward evaluation of strengths and weaknesses heading into the game instead became a week-long saga involving conflicting comments from the coaching staff, lingering medical concerns surrounding Aaron Rodgers, and growing anxiety among a fan base accustomed to clarity and direction from their franchise. Rodgers' left wrist injury, sustained in the Steelers' gritty Week 11 contest against the Cincinnati Bengals, immediately set off alarms throughout the organization. Although the play itself seemed routine, the aftermath was anything but. The pressure on the pocket, combined with an awkward landing on his outstretched hand, left Rodgers visibly shaken. Cameras captured him flexing his fingers, testing his grip, and consulting trainers repeatedly. Despite returning to the sideline with his helmet on and lobbying to re-enter the game, head coach Mike Tomlin made the decision to shut him down for the rest of the afternoon, opting for caution, a move that Rodgers reportedly understood publicly but internally struggled with. At 41, every hit feels heavier, every recovery slower, every injury more consequential. Still, the anticipation entering Week 12 was that Rodgers, with his trademark competitiveness and relentless routine, would find a way to suit up. Throughout his career, he has played through torn calf muscles, sprains, bruises, and more. His ability to battle through discomfort has become part of the Rodgers legend. Early in the week, optimism seemed not only possible but probable. Tomlin himself did little to quiet it, initially downplaying the importance of Rodgers' practice snaps and stating that decision-making would center on game day readiness rather than a strict Monday through Friday grading system. Yet even as the public tone appeared hopeful, whispers inside the organization indicated hesitation. Team doctors were not entirely convinced that Rodgers' mobility would return quickly enough. The issue wasn't pain tolerance, Rodgers has never been short on that, but functionality. Gripping the ball securely, generating velocity, and maintaining consistency in release angles were all concerns. By midweek, additional imaging confirmed what many feared, a fracture, small enough that surgery was unnecessary but significant enough to jeopardize short-term performance. The Steelers pivoted reluctantly toward Mason Rudolph. Rudolph's entry thrust him into a familiar but unenviable role. Over the years, he has been repeatedly tasked with stepping into the chaos created by injuries, inconsistencies, and quarterback transitions, but he has rarely been given the benefit of stable support. Against Chicago, he turned in a performance that could be described as efficient on paper but underwhelming in execution. Completing 24 of 31 passes demonstrated accuracy, but the modest 171 yards and overall lack of explosive plays highlighted the offense's stagnation. His lone touchdown offered a glimmer of hope. His interception, thrown under pressure, reminded everyone of the razor-thin margin for error with a backup quarterback. The Steelers' 6-5 record following the loss felt symptomatic of deeper issues. It wasn't simply that the offense struggled without Rodgers, it was that the team as a whole seemed out of sync. Missed assignments on defense, red zone inefficiencies, questionable situational decision-making, and an inability to respond when momentum shifted painted a picture of a team drifting off the trajectory it had built earlier in the season. And that's what made Brooke Pryor's post-game confrontation with Tomlin so notable. Her questioning wasn't merely about Rodgers' availability, it was about accountability. Throughout the week, Tomlin had sent mixed messages, first minimizing the need for Rodgers to practice, then, after the loss, speaking as if practice reps were essential for readiness. These contradictions invited scrutiny. Fans, analysts, and media were left wondering which comment reflected Tomlin's actual philosophy and which one was simply a matter of managing expectations. The uncertainty around Rodgers' health casts a long shadow over the Steelers' offensive identity. Earlier in the season, even during tight games, there was a growing sense that the offense had finally found rhythm. The running attack showed life, the receivers were developing chemistry with Rodgers, and the offensive line seemed to be improving week by week. But without Rodgers in the huddle, the offense felt hesitant, stripped of its veteran general. Communication suffered. Timing routes looked shaky. Adjustments at the line of scrimmage, one of Rodgers' greatest strengths, were noticeably absent. The psychological component cannot be understated. Teams rally around their leader, and when that leader is removed, even temporarily, doubt seeps in. The Steelers had hoped their defense could carry the load in Rodgers' absence, but the unit was plagued by inconsistencies of its own. Missed tackles, late reactions to misdirection, and lapses in zone assignments all contributed to Chicago finding rhythm in key stretches. What had once been a strength of the team now felt like a unit searching for its identity. Just a few short weeks ago, Pittsburgh was riding high. They were 6-3, winning games through grit, timely execution, and flashes of offensive growth. Fan optimism was justified. The AFC North, notoriously competitive, seemed winnable. Every national analyst was talking about how the Steelers were finally putting the pieces together after years of offensive stagnation and instability at quarterback. There was a palpable sense of momentum, one that made the sudden downturn in form even more jarring. The loss to the Bears didn't just drop them in the standings, it signaled something more concerning. It highlighted vulnerabilities that had been masked by earlier success. It exposed inefficiencies in play design. It demonstrated how dependent the team had become on Rodgers' presence. And it underscored the need for organizational introspection, not just in terms of scheme, but in terms of communication, preparedness, and adaptability. If the Steelers hope to end their playoff drought, something that grows heavier each year and looms larger for a franchise with such a storied past, they need more than just Rodgers returning to the field. They need cohesion. They need discipline. They need to rediscover the complementary football that has defined their best stretches. Rodgers cannot, and should not, be expected to single-handedly lift the team back into contention. Looking ahead, the schedule does Pittsburgh no favors. Their Week 13 matchup at Acrisure Stadium against the Buffalo Bills presents a formidable challenge. Buffalo's offense, led by a dynamic and elusive quarterback, has the ability to stretch defenses both vertically and horizontally. Their defense, opportunistic and aggressive, thrives on forcing mistakes, exactly the kind of environment that becomes hazardous if the Steelers' offense lacks rhythm or confidence. If Rodgers returns in Week 13, the questions become, can he protect himself? Can he perform at a level that compensates for a still healing wrist? Can the offensive staff adjust game plans to minimize risk while maximizing efficiency? And perhaps most importantly, can the team rally around him long enough to reestablish momentum in a season that threatens to slip away? If Rodgers is unable to play, the scrutiny intensifies. Can Rudolph elevate? Can the defense compensate? Can the coaching staff avoid predictable play calling and create high-percentage opportunities? Can the team absorb the emotional hit of missing its leader in a critical moment? Every snap, every drive, every mistake will matter. The Steelers are no longer playing with the luxury of a cushion. They are fighting against time, against standings, and against doubt from the public, doubt from analysts, and, perhaps most dangerously, doubt within the locker room. The final stretch of the season will define not only the legacy of this team but also the direction of the franchise moving forward. Rodgers was brought in for moments like these, moments where experience, poise, and leadership can reshape the season's narrative. Now the question is whether his body will allow him to answer that call, and whether the Steelers will be prepared to support him when he does. Leave your opinion in the comments about this catastrophic defeat the Steelers suffered against the Bears. Do you think there's anyone specifically to blame for this? Thanks for watching and see you soon.